All right, everyone, for our next trick, we're going to design a face card for a deck of playing cards. All right, so, you know, the inspiration is going to be like a queen or a jack or a king from the deck, right? Or maybe a joker. So, you know these. You know what I'm talking about. There's a couple of jokers, kings, queens, jacks. These playing cards have a certain, style, lots of pattern, lots of color, hard lines, contour outlines. And like you might decide that you're going to take inspiration from that and use, pattern and color, like vibrant color, in your face card design. Or you can completely change the style, right? In fact, you're definitely going to change, whether it's a king or a queen or a jack to some other source of inspiration, right? Like a character from history or pop culture. You're going to look for a person that is famous that you could turn into a face card, right? And kings and queens and jacks are always holding swords or scepters or something royal like that. Your character doesn't have to do that at all. Unless it's something like maybe, your character is not super fancy, but you want to make them fancy. You want to turn them into a queen or a king, right? Maybe they're the opposite of a king and you want to make them a king. And so that's kind of the inspiration and the creative side of what you're doing. Or maybe you want to take the idea of that royal position and just, celebrate some other occupation, right? If you wanted to celebrate a plumber, you could make an illustration of a famous plumber. I don't know who's a famous plumber. I don't know. But you could have them holding a wrench, that's what you're going to celebrate, is like a working trade, Anyway, start brainstorming that. Like, what are you going to make? Anyway, let's take a look at the instruction sheet. So the instructions for the playing card, like the face card design, essentially, there's a little introduction to the origins of playing cards. They came from the East and eventually traveled to the West. There are different suits that evolved over the years. Like there used to be coins and cups and birds and acorns and roses, that sort of thing. There have been many suits over the years, but the face cards have stayed relatively the same. There's kings and queens and, knights or jacks. So you're going to change things up. You get to choose whatever suit you want that's appropriate for your figure. You get to choose their occupation. They don't have to be a king. Again, they could be, but, you need to put a twist on it. You need to be creative about it, right? There are certain tools that I'd suggest that you use. Like you should use drawing tools in this one. Curvature tool, pencil tool, pen tool, that sort of thing. So the technical side, will build upon what you already know about Adobe Illustrator and add those new bells and whistles that you've been working on over the course of the next few weeks. You're going to brainstorm this playing card idea, right? You need to create a mind map, like who's your famous individual, or who's the the person in that occupation that you're focused on, and brainstorm that. What are the objects that you associate with that person, with that occupation, with whatever? Get that all written down on a brainstorming sheet. You should have a contact sheet of examples. I'll show you some examples in a minute. And once you've looked at examples and brainstormed the thing, you should start drawing. At least 5 thumbnail sketches of what your card design might look like. Maybe you want to, who you're going to make into this playing card, but maybe you haven't decided if it's going to be, straight on or 3/4 or profile, right? Draw it from different points of view, different angles. And then once you've made your decision about how you're going to compose it, make a larger rough sketch, right? And so the basic layout is going to be a 4x6 image with a 2.5 by 3.5 card on it. That's the size of a standard playing card. Now, those of you that are ambitious and you want to do more than one face card, if you have made one really well and you want to add a second one to it, or a third one, you might decide instead of a 4x6 that you need a little more room. So that's negotiable. But each card design should be 2.5 by 3.5. Okay? All right. And your finished piece is going to be like a PDF saved from Illustrator of your card design or designs. Okay, so read through this instruction sheet carefully. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Like always, you're going to have a preliminary research folder of sketches. Like I just mentioned, you'll name them a certain way and upload them the second week of the project. And here's a list of tools to be familiar with. You don't have to use all of the tools, but you should be familiar with them and use the ones that are really going to help you achieve the style and the look that you want. There's a folder of support materials here, and a link to where you turn that research folder in of sketches later. So the support materials, there are lots of examples here. There is a little bit of history if you wanted to read about the history of playing cards. I've got a link there. I might give you some background on what it is that you're doing, where it's coming from. There's a link here to Behance and lots of contemporary designers and their deck designs, their card designs. I highly recommend, like, you look through this mood board that I've created, but go and search for others, right? Go beyond what I'm showing you here. Certainly, there are like lots of different styles of playing cards out there that you can look at, lots of specialty decks. So, and maybe your thing is tarot cards instead of playing cards. If you want to go that route, then we can discuss that. Okay, that should be all right. So take a look at these. Each one of these is a link. Like here's, a card inspired by Breaking Bad, right? And this designer is using the look of those traditional face cards, right? Like he's literally looking at, kings, right? And that style that playing cards have. That designer has adopted that and applied it to the character. And it's going to be, if you've chosen a recognizable individual if you want that famous person to look like that famous person, then I'd suggest that you try your hand at getting a photograph and using the tools in Illustrator to trace those features so that, you know, there's some kind of recognizable quality to it. Well, at least like do your best. And in the process of learning these tools, if you can try to achieve even a remote likeness, it'll be a win, okay? Anyway, take a look through these examples. Like here's, you know, Lord of the Rings inspired. Here's Steve Jobs as the king of industry. Right? Take a look and on all these different styles. I've tried to use styles that were kind of born out of Illustrator, right? They have that kind of Illustrator quality, like Adobe Illustrator has a certain look. You know, and here's, you know, playing cards inspired by pop stars, right? Okay, so go look for examples and get inspired first, right? Like most of you need to use your eyes, and that's like the source of your inspiration. That'll get those creative juices flowing and get you motivated. Go find the thing that you love, that you want to illustrate, so you'll pour your soul into it, right? Okay, so let's see. When you find those inspirational examples, like make sure that you like right-click them and save them into a folder of examples as, you know, JPEGs or PNGs. Because just like always, I want to see what you're looking at. I want to see what's inspired you, what's informing what you're doing. So remember, you're going to gather up those examples, save them into a folder, and then use Adobe Photoshop to create a contact sheet of examples, right? So I've chosen 3 from Behance, and I found 2 examples of playing cards, just good old-fashioned playing cards to inform, you know, me about that style, okay? And so once you've got those examples gathered up, remember, you're going to brainstorm this thing, like who's going to be on your face card? What are they doing? What are they holding? What are the colors you're going to use? You know, what suit is it going to be that makes sense? Like, I think in one of the examples I say, if you've chosen a wrapper for your face card, you're like, and you know, they are holding a microphone, like, or maybe the microphone is the suit instead of a heart or a club or a diamond, right? There's a microphone symbol there. And instead of a K for king, it's MC, right? You know, think about what makes sense and, you know, what's cool. I typically don't use the word cool for in front of my students because it makes me sound lame, but also because like that shouldn't be the thing that really governs the choices that you make. I do want you looking for something classic and timeless, but also inspirational and has a certain style, a certain quality that attracts attention and gets people to sit up and take heed of what you've done, right? Okay, so brainstorm it. Put all your ideas down on a piece of paper, connect them together. That's going to help tremendously. Then you're going to draw your thumbnails. I know these aren't thumbnails of playing cards, but you get the idea. 5 sketches of what it might look like, and then a larger rough sketch of the finished piece, right? Of what the composition of the finished piece is going to be. All right. So let's go back here. remember, when you're brainstorming this thing, it's probably not a bad idea to go back through this list of big ideas and themes. Oftentimes that will add a dimension to your work that other people aren't thinking about, right? If you've got, a rapper as your face card, and that person is focused on power or history, right? Or maybe you want to marry, that rapper with a historic figure, right? To give them a sense of importance. Go through this list and see if there's some way of integrating a big idea into this project above and beyond the obvious thing. You know what I'm saying? Remember, big ideas, that's about connecting with a larger audience on a deeper level. Like if you can do that, you're going to be a good designer, right? You're going to make connections with lots of people, and they're going to get something out of what you're producing, right? It will have meaning for them in their lives if you use a big idea. Know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Use the tools in Illustrator, especially those new drawing tools, to help you accomplish this. In fact, let me jump over to Illustrator. Like just as a kind of aside, this is not the most creative way of approaching this, because I'm using a king, and it's my profile, so it doesn't seem very humble. I certainly don't see myself this way. I just needed a model and I was available. So, right? So basically, if you get a photograph of yourself or of that celebrity and you place it into Illustrator and then use those drawing tools to trace those features, it's a really good way to start this thing, right? Instead of just starting with circles, etc. If you literally trace the features of that figure, you can achieve a likeness and move yourself forward pretty quickly. Anyway, I'm going to walk you through making these things, and this one's a fairly flat image focused on pattern, and it's not overly colorful. It's like a simple monochromatic image, but there's use of symbols, use of blends, use of patterns, as well as those drawing tools. Essentially, and if you wanted to put a little embellishment on your 4x6 background behind the card and throw a little drop shadow on it, that would be cool. Kind of trick it up. Anyway, my inspiration was from the book The Golden Bough. I don't know if you know me or not, but I'm kind of obsessed with that book, and the big story in it is the king of the woods, the king of the forest. And in Latin, it's Rex Nemorensis, and so I've made my card inspired by the king of the wood. That's not nearly as creative as you're going to be, right? But I needed an example, and so I threw this together. And I want to show you, right, like if you take a photograph, again, I'll walk you through this as well, and use those drawing tools in Illustrator, you can essentially, you can draw like half a face and then flip it to the other side. Okay, so if you start with a photograph, I've got a photograph here. I've actually turned that layer into a template layer. You see, if you go to the menu up here in the corner for the layers panel, you can actually, on that layer, go to the menu and choose template, and it will actually fade the image a bit. You can lock it and then create a new layer above it and draw there. Okay, So that may be a good way to start this thing. Get a photograph, practice just using those Illustrator tools to trace around it. Okay? Maybe, if you can get the photo in the position, like the pose that you want for your face card, that'll help tremendously. Okay? So, start game planning. Start thinking about it now. Start practicing with those drawing tools. Go and look for inspirational figures, like who inspires you. Turn them into a face card. And if you work fast and maybe you've got a little skill already in Illustrator, maybe you take on 2 or 3 face cards. Okay. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. I'm certain that this is going to be the project that inspires and motivates you to new heights. So work hard and have some fun. Okay. I'll talk to you later.